Let's talk previs. It's one of the first things they teach in film school but are rarely ever put into practice on low-budget independent productions. If you've seen the behind the scenes of most any Marvel or Star Wars film, you've likely seen hundreds of meticulously drawn panels laying out every frame of the film. You might have even seen simplified animations with low-res models acting out blocking, camera movement, and early VFX. Storyboards and animatics are the blueprints to creating solid visual effects and are crucial to not just knowing what you're going to shoot, but how much it may cost. Once you know what a shot is supposed to look like, you can then dissect it to lay out a game plan for you and your team to execute the effect. And if you're a budget-minded filmmaker with limited resources, storyboards and animatics can help you save thousands of dollars in wasted time and resources. Now, in our previous video about breaking down your script for VFX, we broke down a short one-page scene and found all the possible VFX that we might need to consider when shooting it. To hear a full example of the scene we'll be covering, you can check that out through the link up there or in the description down below. But before we can design how these shots will be executed on the shoot day, we'll first need to know what these shots will look like. And that is where previs comes in. Looking back to our previous script breakdown video, we flagged all the shots that would require previs, and in the case of that particular scene, basically every shot needs it. Now, this won't always be the case. For instance, if the script reads close-up on phone and doesn't specify anything out of the ordinary, you probably know what that shot will look like without referencing it. But in the case of the scene we're covering here, there are about 1,000 different ways you could shoot it, and the costs associated with shooting it one way versus another could vary tremendously. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Right now, we just need to figure out what we want these shots to look like. But before we do that, if you're a budget-minded filmmaker and not sure where to start when it comes to the visual effects in your current or upcoming project, be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons. We're working on loads of helpful content that are meant to help guide you through the entire VFX process, so turn on those notifications so you don't miss a thing. Now, the first thing I do is start sketching out rough thumbnail-sized panels. All I'm trying to do is convey frame composition, really, making sure that the particular effect that's in the script is clearly illustrated. Now, I'm laying out my thumbnails using our very own VFX to Go 3-in-1 storyboard journal. It makes for a handy sketchbook for me to lay out my ideas quickly in convenient 16:9 frame. Get yours on Amazon today, link in the description below. Now, if you don't consider yourself a strong illustrator, one of my favorite pieces of free software is Storyboarder. Yes, you can draw your panels here, even animate them to an extent, but what I find to be one of the best tools within the software is the shot generator. Here you can place stand-in characters, geometry, props, set pieces, vehicles, and lay out your shots. Here you'll see I've recreated a few frames from our scene. Then, if you like, you can draw over them on the canvas to add more detail. Another helpful piece of software I've used when I'm on a location scout is Previs Pro. Using augmented reality on your phone, you can simply place your character wherever you want in location, even dropping in characters, set pieces, and more to lay out your scene. It's not free, but it's extremely handy and convenient. And they didn't pay me to mention them, I just really like the app. But if they want to. Now that I've gotten all my frames laid out, I've got a much better idea of what we're going for in the scene. But we're not done yet. Because this is an action scene, there's a lot of motion and effects that we'll need to communicate. This is where animatics come in. One way to create animatics might be to take your storyboard panels and cut them up in Photoshop or After Effects, then keyframe various layers around to illustrate the action and movement. This is great because you can then add rudimentary elements and effects to a scene to clearly communicate what effect should go where. And these don't need to be polished effects. In fact, they should be quick and dirty. Just enough to sell the idea of what's going on and present realistic expectations of the work needed to create the final effect. Now, I mentioned that you can do your animatics with After Effects with a little more motion graphics based approach, but today I'll be using Blender. To set up our scene, I've added a 3D model of an SUV, duplicated it, and animated the full scene as it was written. Once the main blocking has been animated, I place cameras throughout the scene, matching what we storyboarded earlier. See, this is why we storyboard first, because now that we're creating the animatics, we're not wasting time finding our shots. We're just going with what we've already decided on with the filmmaker. That said, previs is really something of an overall discovery process. If we find some new and interesting shots as we're going, it doesn't hurt to render those out and see if they can fit into the sequence. Now, as we take the characters outside of the vehicle, I pulled some character models from Adobe Mixamo, assigned some motion capture data to them, and dropped them into the scene. Now I'll introduce the helicopter model, minigun, and commandos. For the smoke effects, I'll just drop in some elements from my Action VFX library, link in the description. Next, I'll import some shots into After Effects to quickly drop in some placeholder effects before taking everything into Premiere. There, I'll assemble the edit, drop in some music to set the mood, sound effects for impact, and we're ready to see our scene. If this video has been of help, or you might know of some great previs tools I missed, let me know in the comments. And if you're a budget-minded filmmaker, producer, or writer looking to create previs for your next production, VFX To Go can help. With dozens of film credits under our belt, we'll guide you through the entire VFX process, soup to nuts, and help you take your production to the next level. You can reach us through our website, vfxtogo.com, and follow us at VFX2Go on the socials. For more on pre-production for VFX, click on this video right here. I've been Jake, and remember to always reframe what's possible.